In the ancient kingdom of Umurji, people believed that a leader was chosen not only by birth but by destiny. The throne was sacred, passed from father to son for generations. And upon this throne sat King Odion, a man loved by his people for his fairness, courage, and wisdom. Under his rule, the kingdom prospered. Farms yielded plentiful harvests, traders came from distant lands, and peace reigned for many years. Yet even in peace, the king carried a burden that weighed upon his heart. He had 5 wives, each from noble families chosen to strengthen alliances with surrounding regions. They were elegant, respected, and skilled in the responsibilities of palace life. But despite the passing years, none of them had given the king a male child who could one day inherit the throne. The palace began to feel the tension. Elders whispered behind closed doors. Villagers prayed in the shrines. The royal wives grew restless. Only the king remained outwardly calm, though deep inside, he feared the end of his lineage. Among the many servants of the palace was a young woman named Ebel, a quiet maid who tended the king's gardens. She was not born of nobility, yet the radiance in her spirit drew people to her. She helped the elderly servants with their tasks, carried water for the cooks, and comforted anyone who was troubled. She had no ambitions. She only wished to live peacefully and serve faithfully. One evening, the king wandered into the garden after a long day of council meetings. Ebel was singing softly as she swept fallen leaves. The sound of her voice brought him a rare peace. He stood listening for a while before speaking to her. That night marked the beginning of a bond neither of them had expected. Days turned into weeks. The king visited the garden more often, not as a ruler, but as a man seeking comfort. Ebel listened to him without judgment, and he found in her a calmness that healed his weary soul. Their friendship deepened into affection. Quiet, unplanned, sincere. Months later, the palace was set ablaze with gossip. Ebel's stomach had begun to swell, and soon it became clear that she was carrying a child. The royal wives trembled with shock. Their hearts tightened with jealousy and fear. After years of waiting, after prayers, sacrifices, herbs, and healers, now a simple maid had done what none of them could. The king confirmed the truth and openly protected Ebel. She became untouchable within the palace walls, but envy is a shadow that creeps even through the tightest guards. When Ebel finally gave birth, the palace erupted with celebration. It was a boy, strong, lively, and beautiful. The king named him Obinna, meaning father's heart. For the first time in many years, joy returned to King Odion. But that joy was not shared by everyone. The royal wives met secretly under the cover of night. Each believed she had the greatest claim to the throne, and each feared losing her power once the boy grew. Their whispered conversations turned darker as jealousy took control. One night, while the king attended a neighboring council, they crept into Ebel's room. Fatigue had taken over the new mother and she slept deeply. They lifted the child from her arms, wrapped him, and fled into the forest. The moon hid behind clouds, as if the sky itself refused to witness what was happening. They found an ancient tree, older than the kingdom itself. There they placed the baby inside a carved wooden box, wrapped with palm leaves. As they covered the box with soil, the faint cry of the baby pierced the air, echoing into the forest like a plea. They hurried back to the palace, shaking with a mixture of fear and guilt. By dawn, the child was gone, and Ebel woke with a scream that shook the entire palace. The king returned to devastation. Search parties scattered across the land. Soldiers, hunters, farmers, but no trace of the child was found. Ebel, broken by grief, left the palace and wandered far away. Some said she settled in a distant village. Others claimed she lived as a healer in the mountains. But no one truly knew. The king mourned silently. He withdrew from the world, his laughter fading, his spirit dimming. The wives pretended innocence, but their eyes avoided his gaze. Time moved forward. The kingdom stayed strong, but its heart was wounded. 10 years later, the forest surrounding Umurji was vast, thick, and filled with mysteries. The villagers knew better than to wander too deep, for it was said that spirits guarded certain parts of the land. One morning, an elderly farmer named Obi and his wife Nkema walked far into the forest to gather herbs and firewood. They had been married for nearly 40 years but had never conceived a child. Their home was filled with love but empty of children, a truth that had always saddened them. As Obi chopped wood near the ancient tree, his hoe struck something hard. Confused, he knelt and brushed aside the soil. A wooden corner appeared. He called his wife, and together they dug until the full box was revealed. When they opened it, the world seemed to freeze. Inside lay a boy alive. Not fragile, not weak. Alive and calm. The couple jumped back in shock. The boy opened his eyes, blinking at the sunlight as though awakening from a peaceful sleep. How is this possible? Kema whispered. The boy sat up slowly, unhurried, as though waking from a short nap instead of 10 long years. He looked at them with clarity. His voice was soft but steady. My name is Obina. They wondered whether he was a spirit or a gift from the gods. His body was untouched by age. His skin was warm. His breath steady. He did not look like a child abandoned for years. The couple decided to take him home. They fed him, bathed him, and gave him clothes. The boy was gentle, calm, and unusually wise for his age. He could explain things he had never been taught. He could predict when rain would fall before clouds appeared. When he touched sick plants, they revived. People began to whisper, "This child is not ordinary. This child carries destiny." It wasn't long before the elders insisted the king be told. They believed no child born in such a mysterious way should be kept hidden. Obi took the boy to the palace. The moment the king saw Obina, he froze. 10 years had passed, yet the child looked exactly like the infant he had lost. Tears filled the king's eyes before he could stop them. The royal wives stiffened. Their hearts pounded like drums of war. Fear crawled up their spines. The king demanded answers from the gods. The chief priest, an elderly man respected for his wisdom, performed rituals that lasted until the moon rose high. The villagers gathered, waiting breathlessly. When the chief priest emerged, his voice was heavy. The earth does not lie. The forest does not forget. And the gods do not sleep. He revealed everything. The jealousy. The conspiracy. The night the child was taken. The burial in the forest. The protection of the spirits. The 10 years the land preserved the boy. The truth spread across the kingdom like wildfire. The wives trembled as judgment approached. They were stripped of their titles and banished from the kingdom, not as punishment, but to restore balance and peace. Obina was brought into the palace where the king held him close. The boy wrapped his arms around him without fear, as though recognizing him instinctively. The kingdom erupted in celebration. Songs, drums, dancers filling the streets. The people felt hope again, believing destiny itself had returned their future ruler. Obina grew up wise beyond his years. He trained with the warriors, learned history from elders, and studied healing from the kingdom's herbalists. He was kind to the poor, patient with children, and respectful to all. Even the animals in the forest seemed to recognize him. Many believed that the spirits still watched over him. When he became a young man, he was crowned as the heir to the throne. His father, old and frail, proudly passed the staff of authority into his hands. Obina ruled with justice, humility, and courage, forever remembered as the child who rose from the earth. And long after his reign ended, mothers in Umyorji told their children, no matter how deep jealousy buries you, destiny can still lift you into the light. If this story touched you, please subscribe for more inspiring videos. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and motivational stories. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss the next story.